6:03, we're running late. You better hurry. Welcome to the October or April 19th regular meeting of the Board of Education. Gary Eaton at 6:03, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. And by taking roll, Mr. Calderon. Here. Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Ms. Appleton.
Here.
Ms. Jones.
Here.
And I'm present. I've asked Ms. Appleton if she would open the meeting with a prayer, and Mr. O'Brien, if he'd lead us in the pledge. Please join us if you'd like.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for springtime, new beginnings. I just pray that you will be with our students, our staff, and our parents as we wind up the school year and help them to year, especially with our seniors as we're getting close to graduation. Help them to get everything in line so that they can be with us today as we go about your business. We just pray that you will give us guidance so that we will do what is pleasing. Watch out for us in all that we do, our students safe, and we'll just thank you for everything, Lord, and give you all the praise and glory.
Amen. We're in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It's at this time in the meeting that we recognize those of you in the audience who would like to say a few words to the board.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'd like to just make a few comments real quick. Nicholas. I believe these are in the correct order.
Oh,
So let's make sure.
well, let's
She
see.
gets the bill.
Oh. I know you're all wondering what's in here.
Thank you.
So if you would check your invitations real quick, make sure I got the right name. If it's got the right name on it, then it's got the right shirt.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'll be quick but excited. Grand opening, May 5th. That's your invitation. There's your Ctec shirt. So same one I've got on right now. We're extremely happy to welcome you guys to our grand opening on May 5th. Quick rundown. We'll start with Skills USA National Signing Day for Skills USA. And so we'll have about 10 students who will be participating in that. Those students have agreed to go to either a technical institute or they have a job with an industry partner. So kind of is the theme of what we're trying to do at that place. So we'll be a National Signing Day at 9:30. And then we'll have speeches and ribbon cuttings that start at 11:30 and go to 1, and an open house from 1 to 3. Right? And so we welcome you guys in behalf of Ctec and the rest of my staff. Thank you guys for everything you've done as far as supporting us.
So is this the uniform for the grand opening?
Yes, that's your uniform.
Just making sure.
That's a VIP pass.
Okay.
Now the other Ctec staff will have it. Someone may ask you to do something, so maybe.
I can cook.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else who would like to say a few words?
We'll take presents.
That's right. Okay. Any comments from the board?
We teach and we expect our kids to do their very best. And what we as a board, we can't do anything. Then that little girl that this is anyway, put in science. So problem. And we have many. Nothing we can do, but it just move the wrong word. We can get them. She's been here since she was Atlanta. they have their dreams. They fulfill their dreams. And
But Joe, I've come to find out from people calling me about the different departments that they need to call and go through. If she does need to stick with the ACLU down at the southern border, down in the El Paso, Las Cruces area, to help them go through the process of applying for citizenship without it costing a whole bunch of money. So there are some entities out there, you know what I mean? But how would a young girl like that know? Them saying who to contact and what, and that is what needs to be plainer and more clear about the hardship, you see what I'm saying, of her. It had nothing to do with her parents. It had to do with her and her wishes at this young of an age. But she didn't ask to be born over there or over here. She's just here. You know what I mean? And so I think there are people that can help. And I tell you what, I'll get back up with you and I'll give you a number or two of people that I know. If somebody start helping her now, hey, she's got, if it takes them that long, you know what I mean? And God knows that we've got computers these days. This is what aggravates me. We can make things happen a whole lot quicker. We don't have to go through the whole charade of, but we gotta wait and we gotta think. There's a process. Let's, you know, I help you try to get it so somebody can help her use it. Let me ask y'all this. Have you all ever seen the citizen test that people have to take?
I haven't heard about it.
We all can't pass it, I can tell you that. I got it one time from State Farm and I gave it to somebody, that's why I don't have it. I said, next time I put my hands on it, because it will ask things that we should know about our country and about our legal system. This and other. It's not easy. I mean, you really gotta want it and you really gotta study for it and know. And I'm kind of like, so, and I know how many states in America and a few other common things, but who's what and who does this and not all of that do I even know, but it's pretty intense. We're lucky.
There are no other comments, then I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda if there are no changes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Regarding the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 15th, are there any revisions or changes? If there are none, then I would entertain a motion.
Second.
Have a motion, then a second. All in favor? Right. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We need to recognize front page Miss Gray today.
Yes.
Mr. President, members of the board, I want to pull up the actual recommendation nomination letter and we'll be able to read from that. Yeah, it's no secret at this point, but I don't even know if Carrie got a copy of this in that. And so, selection committee, it is my honor to write this letter of recommendation on behalf of Carrie Gray, Deputy Director of Finance for Hobbs Municipal Schools, to be selected as the New Mexico Association of School Business Officials School Business Official of the Year. Carrie has served as the head of our finance department for 8 years. Her experience in the private sector as an auditor has lent her to have a keen eye on appropriate stewardship of the public's money. To be in Carrie's presence is a joy that everyone should experience. Her cheerful personality and willingness to educate over adjudicate is a primary reason for her success in her role within Hobbs Municipal Schools. Carrie sees the dollars within the budget as students first and foremost. With that lens on the dollars, the decisions make sense. According to Think New Mexico, from the operational budget, HMS has had the highest percentage of funds going to the classroom. At the time of this was based on last year's budget of 81%. Here tonight, that's not the case. Carrie's leadership within NMASBO is realized by her willingness to educate others regarding the appropriate use of public dollars. She has led multiple sessions across the state and will always answer the phone for a colleague. Please contact me with any questions regarding Carrie's excellent service to the students of Hobbs Middle School schools and for her next stand-up comedian gig schedule. Carrie represents what makes New Mexico great and will be a phenomenal representative of your annual award. Carrie, we appreciate it. I'm gonna give you your award back. If you already got it. But we'll pass this down and let them see it.
Okay.
And just know that the words on that page are simply just a small expression of this district's appreciation for who you are. And just as I shared this afternoon with our aspiring administrators, we're glad that you left the private sector and came to the public sector. Know that the work you do creates value. Thanks again. Appreciate you. You do get back.
Beautiful. For a beautiful
Congratulations.
recipient.
And with that, I got a scholarship to attend Eagle Institute in Virginia in July for some more training.
Oh, nice.
So that was the prize, was
Well,
professional development.
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right. We're ready to move on to instruction.
Mr. President, members of the board, first thing on our agenda tonight under instruction is the consideration of the bilingual funding application. And Mrs. Vihil is here to answer any questions, and it will require, it is an action item.
Good evening, President, members of the board. I bring to you tonight a very condensed version of the bilingual application. As a district, each school's pages is probably about 15 pages. So,
Appreciate that.
but what I've done is kind of just given you a summary, because as we work for consistency across the district, we have some things that are similar at each campus. And but then each campus gets to mold it to their own when it comes to the parent piece and those things that make their campus unique. So the first part just talks about the courses and what we use for Spanish and English materials for elementary, middle school, and high school. The second portion, we have to answer some questions about language proficiency data. The third is we're required to offer professional development. And so we're very consistent with that as well. And I did fail to put one on here, is the letters training we do for our EL specialists. It's on the application. I just failed to put it on this document. So letters is included in that, which is our science of my queen.
Yeah.
So the next portion is each campus is required to have a parent advisory council, which is made up of parents from our English language learner population. And so they meet 3 times a year to talk about the program, what services we offer students, or any way we can help them. Each campus designs their own PAC meetings and run those. And so they're required to actually put forth what they talk about in their application, when they've met. And this year, they actually asked for a school schedule of when they're offering the English hours and the Spanish hours. So it's a little more detailed this year than previous. So my assumption is that's for accountability purposes. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
How many kids do we have?
In the bilingual program, about 540-ish. And ELs were close to 2,000. And what's happening, I mean, because we get new students every year, we're not always exiting the same number as we get. So that number just compounds, and then we lose seniors, but we get kindergartners. So until they can pass that access test with a 5.0, they're still an English learner. And within the 540, I will have to say it's our dual language kiddos too. So not all of those students are English learners. Probably 60 or so of those students are English proficient. They're just participating in a dual language program, which they count in our bilingual numbers.
This may be a question you can't answer, but you mentioned as seniors graduate and new ones come in, kindergartners, does the trend seem to that they're increasing, or is it staying the same or going down?
I would say it's increasing. I think we just get students, and it's not always a Spanish-English conversation. It's an academic English. Because when a student comes in, we assess them for English proficiency. If another language is spoken at home, that's our cue that we assess them for English proficiency. We're not assessing them for bilingual or anything else. And so we're getting students that just don't have a solid academic language. So they're identified as English learners. And sometimes that's a confusion when you talk to parents, because in the old days, you hear bilingual and like, my kid doesn't speak Spanish. Well, it's really not about speaking Spanish. It's about English proficiency on the English side. In the bilingual program, we're building proficiency in both languages.
If they can read Spanish, they should be easier.
It helps, yes.
Younger, like just we were in Brownfield. If they read Spanish better than me.
Yes.
then they could-
The stronger your academic Spanish is, the more you relate it when you're learning English, because you already know the knowledge, it's just translation.
Any other questions from Bisbee?
It makes me sad that things haven't changed.
The interesting thing I'll add is New Mexico sets our exit criteria to 5.0 on access. That is a state decision. We get records from students from Oklahoma, from other states that may have a 4.2 or a 4.5 exit criteria. So you kind of weigh that in terms of how many would we might have if we had a different exit criteria. But New Mexico holds that bar higher, and that's what we attain to.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Any more questions?
I have
I guess we're ready for a motion. Is there a motion to consideration of the bilingual funding application?
So move. Second.
We have a motion done a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're ready for this social studies update.
Mr. President, members of the board, I did not shorten the social.
No, you
didn't. I apologize, but I thought this might be a good reference tool if you would ever need it. So I put the whole document in, and the first document that you're going to see is, let me get to my right place here, is the final rule. And the final rule is the one that looks very official, very legal, and it's very lengthy. We're not going to scroll through the whole thing. If you just stay with me on the front page for just a minute, I just want you to get a feel for that. This is where the State Department finally ended up with all their input, all their meetings, all the information they gathered on what the standards, how the standards would read. And that's called the final rule. And we are, not just us, but every district in New Mexico is expected to follow those standards. Okay. So I wanted you to have the official document. If you'll still stay on the first page, near the bottom, you'll see anchor standards and performance standards for kindergarten. From here on in, it's just going to go through every grade level. And it'll tell you when it changes. So if you have a question at a grade level or need to answer a question about a grade level, this is a great reference document for that. And it is the official final rule. Let's, if you have a question on that one, you can stay. If not, we'll go to the next document.
I was just gonna say, I didn't go to kindergarten, and so I don't know the difference between need and want. It's all a need in my world. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I had to throw that in.
All right, now if you'll click on the second document, it's going to look if I have the official first page. It has New Mexico Public Education Department on it. I don't have that on my hand copy.
New Mexico Social Studies Standards, New Mexico Public Education Department, everyone there? So what we're looking at here, this one is the document that they created in order to get to the final rule. So this is what the State Department put together. If you scroll down a page, you'll see that it's laid out in themes by grade level. So kinder, first, second, keep scrolling a little bit further past 12th grade, where it starts to break up into different classes, because these are for credit. So they're going to have a name that's not going to be 12th grade, but the name of the class. And a little bit further, then you come to the introduction. On my screen, it's 48. If we're on the same place, then you'll see the introduction and an overview of the standards. I'm going to keep scrolling because I want to show you the format. The next one, the next page 49, you'll see the areas in which the new standards, the strands that they contain. 4 of the strands are repeat from the previous standards, and that would be civics, economics, geography, and history. The last 2 strands are new, and they are the ethnic, cultural, and identity studies and the inquiry. And that's what's new with the standards, plus some rewording, as you'll see as we go along. Go to the next page. This is basically just showing you how to read a standard. So it has a theme at the top, then it has the anchor standard. The performance is just the anchor standard taken to the level that once the child has understood that standard, they should be able to. And that's why it's called the performance. You'll see the strands along in the colored side, and then of course the things the child would be expected to do. And then one more scroll, and there are all the anchor standards on one page. There's 27 of them. And then one more, and you'll see we start kindergarten. The final rule will eventually look like what you're seeing here. Some of the wording changed from the draft document where they got all the input to this one. And so they'll have to redo this format in order for teachers to be able to use it and schools to have it. It's a more usable format, as you can see, rather than the final rule. So some of the wording changed. I started going through both of them on a side-by-side. I got as far as 4th grade. It was taking lots of time, but I wanted to see what had changed. And they really had taken into account some of the information that they had received and changed some of the wording. And I will, when we get the new one, I'll bring that back to you so you can have that one instead of the draft as a copy. If you'll now click on the 3rd item, I just want to show you a little calendar. And it's 1 page. I'm just throwing that in there because the others were so long. On this one, are you looking, you should be looking at a document that looks like this. Anybody there? Almost.
Oh, that.
There you go.
Okay. On this one, this is the State Department's timeline of their process. The first column on the right in the orangish color is the rule-making process and how they started back in July 2020. And you can follow it down through until that's the document. First, they created this one, then all the input, which led to this one. And that's your timeline for that one. If you move over to the middle, this is the professional development side. And already they have the white box. The colored boxes are not in place yet, but the white boxes are, and already they have some training available through their platform Canvas that you can go in on your own and go through and learn more about the standards. I took the Social Studies Standards 101 and I did pass. So I felt good about that.
Citizenship test next.
Took notes. But I have some good information from that I will share with you at another meeting. So I think as we go along, Mr. Strickland's suggestion is a good one to give you some information every couple of board meetings to not have to give you so much at once, but to keep you updated in the process. So there will be more information coming as we go through. The last one is instructional materials, and we are following our original cycle. Right now, this one is for the state. So the state has already started. They will go through, vet out materials and give them a rating that we then can use should we choose to. The state does not select materials for us. We do that ourselves. And that's what you approve. When we bring you those choices after the teachers have had a chance, parents have had a chance, anyone who wants to look at them, we bring you the final selection and you adopt those. And those would be the resources that we use. But the state does a great job with teachers already going through some of that material in great detail. They'll do that this summer and giving us their review of it, what they found or didn't find in the materials as well. It's very helpful. So one last thing I would just like to stress, Mr. President and members of the board. This next year is the adoption year of resources. It is not the implementation year of any of this. This is how we progress through the state and what we do with the standards on every adoption. They work on the curriculum first, then look for the resources and go through those. Then the schools and districts do their process in that, which will be this next coming school year, once we get our resources and work on our curriculum, because we'll take the standards down to a scope and sequence of how it will be presented, and then teachers will build lessons off of that. Then the implementation is 23, 24. It's not next year. We're still in the process. I'll stand for any questions. A lot of information. Thank you for your patience and attention. And I won't make you take a test like I had to take today.
But I do know that there's a lot of concern in the community about the new social studies standards and what people are saying that's in them and they don't want. But it's good that we have the ability, we choose the resources and what's going to be taught. So that's the safety net there, I think.
And Mr. President, I'll add to that comment. I think back to the days when I was in the classroom teaching, and I don't know that I ever taught that book from cover to cover. Those are truly resources. They're instructional materials. They're not our instructions if I'm putting together some patio furniture, so to speak. They're solely a resource. So as a district with an instructional team, we're able to create that scope and sequence and identify those resources to teach that standard to the best of our ability, responsive to our community. So that this process is not new. And I think that aggravated a number of folks. But I'll tell you the silver lining to that is it generated interest that's long overdue. And I'll point out ELA. The amount of interest that we had in selection of our English language arts materials surprises me. And I hope that as a community, we continue to be engaged in this process. So that's why I asked Debbie that as we navigate through this next year, and getting ready for full implementation in 23, 24, we're going to see bite-sized pieces of this as we go along. That process will feel familiar when we provide instructional materials, and we'll do that just like we've done in the past. We'll have public sessions to where they can come and review the materials. We'll have staff available to ask questions of, answer questions of. I will say this bit of, I guess, commentary. The update to our social studies standards is long overdue. 21 years has occurred since the last time we fully adopted new social studies standards. A lot's happened in 21 years. That doesn't mean to say that that history or that civics or whatever that piece is hasn't been being taught, but it's not been to that standard present. So long overdue. Personally, I'll tell you, I think the timing would have been different. But it's interesting to sit back and look at that and go, this process began in July of 2020. And it will not culminate until school year 23, 24. So there's a long process there that evolves. And so I'm hopeful that the interest continues to be there and it be from a productive standpoint. Because as a public education department, their role and responsibility, just with every subject matter, is to provide standards that as a state education entity, we're going to be held to. It's the district's responsibility as local education agencies to provide that standard manner that's responsive to their community. So that's where we have that local flexibility as a community to be responsive to our community. I appreciate your really the questions that each of you have had at different times. We appreciate those, and we hope that the community continues to be engaged. Throughout this next year, we'll have multiple opportunities for that to be provided.
It'd be great if the community was engaged on all standards like they were this one. It is.
I have a few things to say about math, so when it
Any other questions for Ms. Cooper? Thank you, Ms. Cooper.
Thank
you.
Okay, ready to move on to human resources.
Mr. President, members of the board, notice my report is very concise.
You get points for that.
So, no offense, Mrs. Cooper. So the first one deals with certified employment. You'll notice there that we have hired 3 teachers that have started employment since our last meeting, which is good news. Under classified employment, we've had 7 new classified positions filled since our last board meeting. I've had 1 certified resignation, Holland Middle School. They, we're looking for that probably here. 3 classified resignations last board meeting. So, Mr. President, members of the board, before you, the renewal of certified contracts. These are our teachers, counselors, so forth on all of our campuses. There are 576 names there for renewal. I do need to point out that 1 name was inadvertently added to the list. Want to make it for the public record. Brown Elementary added to my are 507 renewal for contract. And under classified, This is all of our secretaries, paraprofessionals at all campuses, all departments, office, services. Specified contract. There you have. Our staff is about half and half. I can classify. Have that many aides. We have a lot of nutritional services.
I have none. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Miss, we're ready to move on to data. Ms. Burton.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. I have some information, just one information item for you tonight. The four-year graduation rate analysis for class of 2021. I brought to the board some information earlier in the year. I believe it was October when we started working on verifying graduates, so that those numbers matched up. I left a handout at your spot before the meeting started. I like to have a paper copy sometimes, but so just as a reminder, the cohort started in 2017-18. So anyone who was in ninth grade in 17-18 enrolled here or enrolled at Hobbs High School throughout those 4 years, or as a freshman at the freshman school during their 9th to 12th grade careers. Students have an opportunity to be counted 4 times in a year. So when we do our STARS snapshots, and so that gives them 16 snapshots for their career, their high school career. And that is how the state determines our graduation rate. We have a shared accountability model, which means that if a student is with us part of the time, part of their career, and they're with, say, another district part of their academic career, we get partial credit, they get partial credit for that graduation rate. And so just with that reminder, just looking at specific numbers, the official state reported graduation rate for cohort 2021 is 84.1%. Hobbs freshman high school is 76% and Hobbs high school is 87%. So that district rate is made up from the 2 schools. So if you're looking at how many kiddos that is, 833 students attended at least one snapshot, or I'm sorry, at least 2 snapshots. So you have to have 2 snapshots to be counted. At least 2 snapshots with one of those 2 schools throughout their high school career. 104 of those withdrew either to private school, homeschool, or left the state or left the country. And so that leaves our actual cohort as 729. And those of you that will remember graduation last year, we didn't graduate 729. Our graduates from that 729 is 616. Now, I believe our official number last year was 605. So some of those kids ended up graduating somewhere else, like maybe they graduated in Lovington, or they graduated from, Roswell or Pecos Connections or something like that. But we still get part of the credit because we had them part of the time. So that's where those 616 come from. That's that 84%. Non-graduates, 113. So those are the ones that are still attending at alt school, or they left the state and we don't know what happened to them. They said they were going to a school in Albuquerque, but they never re-enrolled. We lost track of them, and despite our efforts of trying to locate them, and every school in the state's trying to locate every kid they've had. And so that's where those 113 are the ones that we just don't know. I can't say we don't know all of them. Some of them are at alt school right now. Some of them have already graduated, but they weren't counted in this because they didn't graduate by August. So they will be represented in our 5-year cohort. We'd still get credit for them later. And just if you're interested in the demographics of that core group, that 729 kids, you can see the breakdown of male and female, the different, our major ethnic groups. You can see how many are in each of those groups. We don't have enough Asian or Native American students without, if I put the number in there, then you probably can figure out who they are because it's a pretty small number. English learners, our students with disabilities, economically disadvantaged, and homeless students. Those are all data points that we report to the federal government, or to the state, that the state reports to the federal government. If you continue on, Mr. Strickland and Cabinet and I had visited about how to look at this data. 84%, what does that mean? 729 kids, what does that mean? So to break it down and show how we compare as a 5A high school to other 5A high schools in the state of New Mexico. And so that's what you'll see on the subsequent pages. So the first graph on page 2 is our graduation rate by subgroups compared to the average of 5A high schools. Now, there's 28 5A high schools. So if you're really interested in how we compare specifically to another school, the last 2 pages have that information on there for you. But instead of putting all 28 of those on there for the graph, it made pretty messy. I just did an average. And so you can see how we compare to the state average and how we compare in those subgroups to other 5A schools on average. So you can see Hobbs High School, 87% overall. The state average is 76.8. And then the average for 5A schools is 81.3. So we're doing much better than both of those numbers. You can also see how we compare in the groups of economically disadvantaged, English learners, which we're outstanding at, I will say, our homeless students and our students with disabilities, higher at every level. The second graph is demographics. Those were subgroups. These are demographics. So these are male and female, and then our 3 major ethnic groups that we have enough numbers for. And so you can see how we compare with other 5A schools, and then how we compare with the state average as well. And also keep in mind, if you're curious about those numbers, you can look back on that first page and see how many kids is that? How many kids is that group from the previous graph, students with disabilities? It's 88 kids. So you might, you have to kind of look at those percentages and keep that number in mind as well.
And also, if you look at the last 2 columns on that bottom graph, it appears that the males are dragging down the females. I just want to point that out in case you missed.
That is a fact right there.
And it's over.
It's always been that way.
I know.
We own it. We own it.
On page 3, you can see Hobbs schools compared to the state over the last 11 years. So 2011 to 2021. So we all know that we've had a rough couple of years just nationwide, but I think it's good to look at historical trends. And if you see just our overall is that first graph from 2011 with a 64.6% graduation rate to 2021 with an 84.1% graduation rate. It is a little bit down from the year before, but I think there's lots of positives as well. The next graph is the same information, but for that subgroup of economically disadvantaged from 2011 to 2021. You can see that there's an overall increase for us of 34.9 percentage points. The state has only improved 16.1 percentage points for economically disadvantaged students. Page 4, same with our English learners. You can see there's quite a gap if you're just looking at the graph between the blue one, which is us, and the orange one, which is the state. So you can see that that trend is continuing. And our English learner graduation rate improved even through COVID. Then you have the gender comparison once again, males and females, state and hub schools. And I did a little bit different in my narrative at the bottom of this one because I thought it was a very interesting, starting in 2015, if you start from 2015, our average graduation rate for females was 89%, and for males was 84%, which is almost 6 percentage points on average higher than the state graduation rate. So just like I said, more data points there. And then the very last graph there on page 5 is your demographic comparison, your race comparison. Each of our 3 main groups compared to the state, all the way back to 2011 up to present. See, they're all gradually going up, but ours tends to be higher than the state average. And then, as I said, the appendix, if you're interested in a particular school and how they stack up against us or other 5A schools, you can take a look at those last 2 pages just for your information. And I will stand for questions if anyone has any.
Very good information,
Yes.
very well laid out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions from Ms. Bird? Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Ready to move on to operations. Mr. Mackey.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Superintendent Strickland. I'll give you a brief summary of what we've been working on. Things are moving smoothly now, more smoothly. But on Southern Heights, we are working diligently with PSFA to get the contracts together so that we can get those executed with Bradbury Stam immediately after the PSCOC meeting, which is April 25th, not May 2nd, as shown on your handout. There was a scheduling discussion, but they decided to stay with the earlier date, which is in our favor. With the help of Superintendent Strickland, we believe that the PSCOC will now be participating in their portion of pre-K, the 4 additional classrooms at Southern Heights. So thank you, Jean. We do have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for April 28th, next Thursday. So we're moving rather quickly, and the week after that, we will be having the week of the 9th, May 9th, we'll have a groundbreaking ceremony. So as we open one school, we'll have the groundbreaking for another week after that. So we're on a roll. Likewise, Mills Elementary site improvements. We've been, again, working with the state to get the contracts all put together. And again, we're going to have a pre-construction meeting the 28th, do these simultaneously. So it helps the regional manager, PSFA regional manager, to be here for both of those simultaneously. So that worked out very well. And interestingly, on that project as well, the state has changed the contracts, but now they are paying more than their fair share. So whatever you did, Gene, keep it up. On our security award projects, the good news is Stone Elementary did get completed. The bad news is there is still another delay with the electric panic devices for Coronado and Edison. So those should be coming the end of this month. And hopefully by May, we'll get those projects wrapped up. Over at the Tidings Auditorium, the chiller replacement. Again, we're working with PSFA to get Honeywell's contract put together so that PSFA will sign off on it. But they have ordered all the equipment, and the current schedule is to have them start in August and then have all that work completed in mid-October. We will be chatting with Honeywell to see if we can't possibly get the 100 wing. Since we've now got 2 chillers, get that smaller chiller, which is coming in earlier than the big one. See if we can get that work done in the summer. So by start of school, that will be up and running and we won't have to interrupt them during school. We'll have that conversation with them. And again, we do have our structural engineer on board to get that nice 10-foot by 10-foot overhead door on the 2nd floor of that mechanical room, and should have some drawings from him in another week or 2. On the Heiser Middle School Study Project, I've been speaking with Marilyn Strube at Greer Stafford. She is preparing a very specific task list for when they come down. I'm expecting them to be here in about 3 weeks. Start that study. The other ongoing projects that we've got without state funding is the RAC 7 project. We did get a comprehensive furniture plan that included all of their existing furniture and showed it in the new building. As a result of that, we reviewed it with Cliff and staff and determined they don't need as many office spaces as they thought they did. They can operate with one less space. This will allow now for the IDF room to be built according to our district standards and still give them a large enough conference room for their board meetings. It was kind of a critical challenge to get all 3 of those things working together. So
Now, what room did you say that IDF?
the IDF, so the it's the server room, put it that way. Right now, they don't have anything over there, and we will be bringing fiber over from the current location and build our server room so that it could also expand in the future, as well as incorporate all the latest technology and standards that we've developed. The mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers are now working on that project, so we should be seeing some drawings from them shortly. They are a little bit behind their schedule. They were scheduled to be completed and have this thing on the streets by now, so about 3 weeks behind, I believe. So I've started to leave them nasty grams. The Will Rogers Site Improvement Project, survey work is still proceeding on that, so really nothing to report. The central kitchen freezer. We have taken some geotechnical borings around the 600 wing, and we've had Pettigrew do some survey work just to help the design professional get that addition, get the new exits that are coming out of the classroom spaces to be all proper. That work is proceeding along. Let's see, the Highland Middle School kitchen addition is also moving along, again, about 3 weeks behind schedule. And the mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers are working on that one currently. College Lane Elementary School.
My personal favorite.
Survey work is just about done, which is good. That's the key to the design work, which is coming next. And we still have not taken any time out to look at the sewer line replacement, but we'll get to that one. And the district-wide outdoor learning classrooms, we have had a 1 month delay in the delivery. They were anticipating receiving those by starting next week. So it's going to be closer to the end of May where we can get those on site, which is actually pretty good. That works well into the summer schedule of getting concrete pads and getting those structures put up without children around.
Maybe the wind will die by then too.
Yeah, that too. Moving along, we've got some of the new projects. Tidings Auditorium restroom alterations. I've kind of mentioned that to you before. We have an air handler in that mezzanine area. So we have come up with a solution on how to get the air handler in there, but then how to conceal the openings. Over at Ctec, we had designed a number of sound attenuating acoustical panels for the shop areas, both walls and ceilings. With all of the utilities that are now in place, they have extra. So they have enough extra material so we could completely wrap the mezzanine area with acoustical material. So we won't be out any additional funds for that. So we're working on that one. Basker boys JV ball, basketball, and the girls PE locker room alteration is still on here. We have not done any work. That does need to get a permit, so we will need to get an architect. I had been waiting for NPSR to get completed with Highland and REC 7, so they can start on that next. The Business Office Copy Center, we installed the casework today. So that's now in place, curing, and everybody can start putting in their copy paper tomorrow and move the equipment into place. So that one is done. And then the Tasker Arena exterior door replacement. We've got the EO issued to master plumbers on that, and the submittal has been approved by PSFA. So they're ready to go. And again, I've attached a current list of projects at the end of the handout material. Again, as a kind of reminder, anything in green text is something new from the previous month. So if you want to just keep tabs of what we're doing, read the green text. So I'll take any of your questions.
Thank you, Frank. It's always very thorough and really keeps us current.
Got a quick question.
Yeah.
On the Mills project, for the once a year, maybe twice a year that it rains, are they addressing the flooding issue in the parking lot?
Oh, that was part of the purpose of this project.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, all of that water that used to just kind of drain right into the front, now we're pushing that further out.
Like a dry parking lot.
Yeah, it will be dry.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
One thing before Frank goes, a couple projects on there we need to make note of. And so REC 7 alterations. Commissioner Eidson on the county commission side is helping and funding that project with his discretionary funds. And then also the central kitchen freezer addition, Commissioner Eidson and Commissioner Sena are contributing funds to both of those projects to allow those to move forward. So it's always a nice thing. I will correct a misstatement on my behalf in March on the College Lane project. Shared with you that we did have some dollars allocated to us from our state legislators that we believed to have been vetoed. And I was in error in that money allocated for College Lane was not part of that bill that was vetoed, the junior money. We do have projects that were awarded from other legislators that was vetoed. But the College Lane project is money allocated from the greatest majority from Representative Scott and a portion from Senator Ernan to help fund that project out at College Lane. We're grateful for their support in allowing that project to move forward.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to help. All right. Well, I guess we're ready to move on to Miss Front Page Gray's. We've had our board packet since last week and had an opportunity to review all the items in the business side of it. And I didn't have any questions for Ms. Gray. Did anybody else have any? So
Obviously, she knows more about it than all of us.
that's right.
Mr. President, members of the board, for your consideration, we have expenditures, investments, and bars.
Any questions regarding expenditures, investments, and bars? If there are none, then I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The biggie now.
Mr. President, members of the board, my favorite time of year, which is presenting budget. So Terry's gonna pull that up for you. And I know I say this every year, but it does represent people and books and pens for students. And I know I say that every year, but it is true. And you know, when you say, how do you judge a man's heart? You look at where he spends his money, right? And it's the same for our district. Where are our priorities? And you'll see quickly that our priorities are in our people and our students. Proudly present the draft budget for 22-23. Can't believe it. So as you may recall, we were given a very early budget due date. Spring budget workshop was the 6th through the 8th. Our budget due date is tomorrow. So good luck with that, but we did it. We did. So what we did was we took what's called the 910B5 tool. We plugged in the unit value and we came up with the estimated projected revenue of 100.5 million for SEG. It's a very educated guess based on true numbers, true membership. Our at-risk index went up from 0.181 to 0.229, which was huge. It's a small number that multiplies by 18,000 units. So it's huge for us. So all that, we plugged it in, we came up with 100.5 million. So ad valorem and oil and gas, we projected those based on this year's numbers and things like that. We have a little bit of other various and sundry revenue. We have an agreement with the city. We get a little bit of interest, some indirect costs, which as you may recall is from when we do federal funds, we get to reclaim a part of that for the administration of the funds. And so that's usually to the tune of $30,000. All right. And I should have pointed out, this is only the operational budget, of course. The federal funds, of course, you get to see through the application process, and that's how you approve those. And some of those applications are still ongoing right now. So, all right. So, of course, our first priority is salaries. The 54.4 million is what is in salaries today. Everybody on staff right now. And then we have 20 positions that were unfilled. Mr. Strickland has been recruiting, Mr. Young's been recruiting, and as well as Mr. Bird. So I have confidence that they're going to find those 20 people. They will find that. So I'm budgeting for them, 1.6 million for that. And then you have ARB. As the legislature, they mandated that we will increase it as the employer 2%. So we are now, for every dollar that's subject to ARB, we're now contributing 17.15%. The employee will not see an increase. They're still 10.7 at the high range. And so we, though, are at 17.15. Okay. Retiree healthcare stayed the same, 2%. Our friend FICA that takes out of all our checks, no matter where we go, what we do, he finds us. That's 3.3 million. And Medicare, 789,000. We've got health insurance. So health insurance, they legislated a cap at 6%. So we budgeted 6% because we know if they cap it, they're going to do that. So that's our portion, which is 6.7 million. Now, it's of note that we currently contribute roughly 64%. It depends on your salary. We contribute no less than 60%. No, and if you're for the on the salary schedule, a certain rate, we contribute 75%. So, so we contribute 60% or for the high end, and then so that's our portion. We estimate it going up 6%. That is $6.7 million. Then you have life insurance, dental, vision. We do carry a rider of a catastrophic student. We obviously have insurance down below, but there's an excess policy that's $10,000. We put all that in at $77.9 million. And then we have red cards, things of that nature. That's $864,000 for a grand total of $78.7 million. So those are our beginning salaries as of today with the ERB increase. All right. And so if you move down, we have a district travel account, $100,000. We also have professional development. Like, we invest in our people. I mean, you grow your people. I think that's super important and very passionate about that. $715,000 goes to that. And it's important. The luxury of getting audited, I love it every year. $60,000. So yay auditors. Budget allocation, I know, right? As if we don't enjoy it enough, we get to pay them. But so for budget allocation, non-payroll, that's 5.2. That's what goes to the schools for the pencils, the pens, the paper, not including professional development or salary. So as a principal, that's what he or she gets to say, okay, for printing and paper, it's exclusive of the activity account, that's exclusive of professional development. So that's just their base budget. Okay, that's 5.2. It's of note that we have not decreased that in 3 years. Prior to March 13th of 2020, it was based on student count. If they lost students, we didn't lower it because we, but during the pandemic, we just held everybody harmless. So even though our enrollment went down, they're still getting the exact same budget they got into 2020, pre-pandemic. Okay. Risk insurance, 1.6 million. That's just kind of like the insurance you have to carry on your house and your car. I do think that as a district, we do a really good job of maintaining our facilities, doing the things we need to do. So it's kind of like your own insurance. You can do the things you can do, right? To get it as low as possible, and then they give you the number. So with as much square footage as we have, 1.6 million, and I have the number too. Last year, that number was 1.5 million. So it did not increase a whole lot. So that's kudos to the entire district working to keep things safe. And
Have we got Ctec on that yet?
I believe it is.
Okay.
I believe it is.
And we've been covering that once it becomes a construction project.
Yeah.
We become carrying that.
Okay, good.
And then workers' comp. And again, I think as a district, we do a good job of managing those claims, and HR does a great job of managing that. So that's 916,000. All right. And then we're moving on to electric. 1.3 million. That's based on this year plus an estimated usage for Ctec plus an estimated 14% increase. So 1.3 million. Well, and Sean Drake does such a great job. I mean, I can't say enough about how great job he does managing that. So that's 1.3. Gas, 210,000. Water sewer, 893, and communication. So all that totals $90.1 million of the $101 million. So then you move down to how we allocate the rest. The biggest portion, as you know, the teacher salary schedule, which I will show you, we moved from that ginormous one that had so many columns, bachelor, bachelor 15, bachelor 45, to 3 columns, level 1, level 2, level 3. Couple reasons for that. One, simplification for teachers, and it's good for recruitment, but also more importantly, we don't get funded on that old salary schedule anymore. We don't get funded what they call training and experience anymore. It's teacher cost index. This was the first year, it's 100% teacher cost index. So we thought this was the great time to move to, plus with it going to 50, 60, 70, ideal time. So there you go. So I'll talk a little bit more about the teachers. But that costs $5.7 million to move those teachers where they needed to be. Because we didn't want anyone, obviously those masters of 45, they can't experience no growth, right? And so they're going to get 8.6%, but the average is 14.5. So the majority are going to see a very healthy, the average 14.5. Okay. And then a couple of other things, as you know, they mandated a $15 minimum wage for everybody, parapros, secretaries, everybody. So we went through all the salary schedules that weren't there yet and increase them. The average increase there was roughly 14% if you take all the salary schedules. Nobody saw less than an 8.6%. Nobody. So if their salary schedule was already there, and nobody saw less than 8.6. The mandated state was an average of 7. We didn't do that. We went above and beyond. And we also didn't do average. As you know, when they say average, that's so a district, especially a smaller district, can kind of maneuver. We don't do that. We went everybody. So nobody will see less than 8.6. But the average will be 14. Okay. Increase for stuff. Nutritional services. And we've talked about this, that USDA funds nutritional services based on a per plate reimbursement, which is $4.27. Finally memorized it. Can't buy Happy Meal for that. I've tried. You can't. They don't give me the toy when I do that. Dang. But so when New Mexico mandates these raises for the state, which is great, she does not have the funding mechanism for that. She's not funded through this. So I had put in there for $621,000. She had put in a request as well, not knowing I had. We agree that needs to happen because, I mean, not only your salary's going up, but also her food cost is going up and her per plate is not keeping up with that. She can't change that. She can't control that. But we are going to fund that out of federal money. So it is going to happen. But we're funding it out of some federal funds that we have. And we hope that there has been attention brought to it. So we hope that New Mexico will realize that if they're going to mandate these things, which is great, they need to help supplement it too. So we'll kind of see where that shakes out. But for this year, it is going to happen. It's just going to happen out of federal. That's why you see it highlighted. Okay. Increase for subs, if we're going to the $15 minimum, we got to bump those subs up. You notice above, way up there, it was like 898,000, I believe. I'm increasing it 20%. So I don't have the sub rates for you yet, but we will get those for you. But I just estimated 20%. And instructional materials, $1 million. All right, so that is that. So that leaves $713,000 to allocate. And then, so if you will, the next thing, this just kind of breaks out. We didn't go each individual request, but what happens is every principal, every location leader has the opportunity to put in budget requests, and then we prioritize on level 1, level 2, level 3. We were blessed this year to be able to do all the 1s and the 2s. The 3s, that means that not at this time, for whatever reason, and generally we can find other avenues. You can talk, and I know that Mrs. Cooper did a great job of this, communicating with the principal. We're not going to fund it, but here's maybe why, or maybe it's an reallocation of your funds or things that we can do, but not necessarily. All right, but here's some things, a summary of it. The request, priority 1 and 2, included $600,000 in new positions and staff. So the majority were people. As the other thing it included, that includes 7 positions needed to assess, such as autism support, ALVID coaching, and secretarial and other. It did include an increase for meals. We talked about Happy Meals earlier, kidding, jokingly, but it is true. When you're feeding a hungry football player, you can't feed him for $8 anymore, right? You got to supersize. No. So we did increase that just a little bit. And so that's the $713,000. I will be more than glad to provide the detailed request if you would like to see it. Just let me know. Email me and I will be glad to do that. All right. Then moving on, salaries as a percentage of the budget. As you can see, the 78.7 million, and then the additional 5.7 for the teachers, the 3.6 for the non-certified, 600,000 we just talked about in new positions. You can see that the total personnel is 88.7 million of the $101 million budget, which is 87.5%. So almost 88% in our people. And then the rest obviously is instructional materials or lights and things like that. So I feel very good that we are directing it with the staff and students in mind. Okay, if you go on to the next one, Ms. Carey. Okay, this is the teacher salary schedule. The draft, it's not approved yet. But as you can see, so the state mandated 50, 60, 70. We went above and beyond. So you can see a level 1 can start at 54. And then a level 2 at 63, 73, and then 70. And then you can go all the way down. The other thing we did was we increased the level 1 all the way down to 30 years. I don't know if you remember, but it used to stop like at 7 years because
That's good.
yeah, so we increased it all the way down. And so that is what your teachers can make. So no one saw less than 8.6, but pretty healthy salary schedule, we feel. One more thing. Oh, okay. So one other quick thing I did for the staff is a lot of times you hear, oh, well, we're getting an 8.6% raise. Well, that's great. But on, what is that when my insurance is going up 6%? So just did a quick little thing that, as you can see, on a $65,000 salary, it's like $5,900. But the insurance is only on your premium. And the highest premium for family, high option, the Cadillac version is $9,800 for the entire year. And so a 6% raise on that is $593. So you can see you're still netting almost $5,000. I just kind of did that because people go, well, my insurance is going up. It is, but and again, that's kind of an example.
That's a real good example, because I had the same problem with employees,
Thank you. Yeah, so that is our budget that we hope, I stand for any questions. I feel good about it. I do want to thank Mr. Strickland and the entire cabinet because we were only able to get it submitted, which we did, but draft, I should say, because you haven't approved it, pending board approval. We got it actually submitted last night, the draft. And so we only have to do that because Mr. Strickland and the board were so great at helping me be proactive and getting the calendar engaged so that once we got that unit value, we were going to town. So.
Thank you for all your hard work. That's
Thank you.
exactly why you got that award.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, again, appreciate the effort into that process. Because until you look at each one of those steps and go through each one of those steps, I think it's difficult to have an appreciation for what every one of them are included. But a process that historically for us may have been submitted in the middle of May or even June. Got it done. And we're proud of where we are. So as your superintendent, I want to express my appreciation to you as a board in that direction to say we want to make sure and take care of our people. And I appreciate that support as well as that guidance because it allows us to structure a budget that is responsive to that and is able to generate an average salary increase for our staff, for all staff, an average salary increase of 14.2%, which is life-changing. And so absolutely worth it. It's in the right spot. And we're looking forward to making sure that money's put to good use in the coming year. Appreciate your support and really your questions as you've gone through that, your participation in the process. Not a cumbersome process, but there's many steps and many conversations that occur with that. So Barry does a great job organizing all of us and keeping all of us chickens in the coop. Or herding cats, whichever way you want to put it.
Are there any questions for Gary regarding the budget? And I would entertain a motion for consideration of this budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again.
It's no longer a draft.
The first one over $100 million. Our budget's been over $100 million for many years, but this is the first one that operational is gonna hit.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
A lot of money.
Gary's also included the quarterly budget for information purposes. Guess we're ready to go into executive session regarding an update of litigation between HMR Transportation versus Hobbs Municipal Schools lawsuit and the superintendent's contract. It is 7:24. Would entertain a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to go into executive session. Mr. Calderon?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Appleton?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you all. Good to see you.
I'm sure you'll all be here when we get back. Oh, Money Man has to stay. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's not go
I
into
didn't see it and I thought,
executive
well,
session yet.
maybe it had something to do with the budget.
Modify our agenda.
Modify,
We have a motion to
modify.
the agenda,
Oh,
moving
Second,
right up.
second that we will modify that agenda.
Right.
To include, let me get back over here. 10B, right after,
Okay.
the budget.
I'm glad you caught.
I saw it early and I just say.
We have a motion and a second to modify the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. All right, please. Thank you.
My check had better be in the mail.
We had to come out of the meeting and Brad's still here and go, we forgot something."
I'm
excited to talk about bonds.
Hey, you're not listening.
Be up
My
all night.
check had better be in the mail.
We need to introduce the agenda item.
So, Mr. President, members of the board, what we have here tonight is a consideration of our next tranche of bonds that were voted on by our community back in 2019 to the tune of $30 million. And this is that next set of bonds to help continue the capital project at Ctec, but also begin that capital project at Southern Heights. So Brad Angst, our financial advisor, is here to share with us where we're heading with that next $9 million.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strickland. Mr. President, members of the board, good to be with you. Thanks for having me up. Before you this evening, you have a resolution to approve the authorization of a sale of bonds. And we have a little bit of a different path we're taking this time around with some of the market dynamics, the rise in interest rates, a little bit volatile activity in bond investors. Working with Mr. Strickland and Ms. Gray, we determined we should take what we call a dual track process. We were both analyzing a public offering of bonds, which is what we typically do. That's typically the most efficient way to sell bonds and get the lowest cost of capital. With some of the things going on in the market, we also determined that we should go and talk directly with some commercial banks and see if we could obtain interest on providing the direct purchase of your bonds instead of selling to many different investors. That path is working directly with one investor, in this case, a commercial bank. And so we went out, we explored, engaged the interest of some banks, national banks, community banks, and then also some regional banks. And we got back some good offers, some good interest. And so we are recommending that the school board and the district proceed with negotiations with Lee County State Bank. They are a bank that is based here in Hobbs and has a relationship with the district already. We've worked with this bank before on these type of debt placements. They know what they're doing. They're very flexible. And they came in with interest rate that was comparable to these other banks that I just described. The banks compared to that public market bond offering in this case was the interest rates were approximately 40 basis points better. So 0.4 of 1% better than the capital markets are providing right now. Another advantage of going this path and doing this route is that we can lock in the interest rate a lot sooner. If we had to go through that public offering, we'd be preparing for a rating meeting with the agencies. We'd have to prepare an offering doc, and we'd be about a month away from being able to lock in interest rates. So before you this evening, you have a resolution that authorizes the sale of school bonds. It delegates the authority to the superintendent and Ms. Gray to be able to finalize and lock in that deal, that business deal with the bank. We have an indication of their interest rate. We know that it's better than market rates currently. By you approving this resolution will allow us to work with the lawyers to prep the documents, the purchase agreements, lock in those interest rates, which will occur next week upon signature of the bank and Mr. Strickland. That I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Financial stuff.
Sounds like a plan to me.
And
And we appreciate you going after that extra 0.4%.
absolutely, when you're talking
Yeah.
$10 million, it makes a difference.
And I'm glad the Lee County State Bank is a local bank.
Yes.
Almost makes me want to go.
Open an account.
Keep it home.
It's certainly a good deal. You know, they're taking the local public's dollars, reinvesting it back in the school district and buildings. So we think it's a good thing as well.
Well, I make a motion that we approve this resolution.
Second.
Okay, well, we need to do this properly, we
Oh.
need to do a roll call.
Oh,
So
okay.
Mr. Calderon?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Appleton?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
And I'm present. There are no members absent. Mr.
Oh.
Strickland is also present. Now we are ready for your,
I make a motion that we approve the resolution.
do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. How do you vote, Mr. Calderon?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. or Brian?
Yes.
How do you vote, Ms. Appleton?
Yes.
How do you vote? No. And I vote yes. Are there any abstaining? No, or nay votes? Okay, that motion's unanimous. Thank you.
Excellent. My pleasure.
Thank you, Brian.
Appreciate it.
Now, I think we're ready to move into
Oh.
executive session.
Okay, I make a motion, we move into executive session.
A second.
It is 7:31. We have a motion to move in executive session. Mr. Calderon,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Ms. Appleton,
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you all again. Moving into executive session for the reasons stated earlier.
Yes, there's still the reasons. Thank you for our gifts, Mr.
Yeah.
Haney.
Thank you.
You and who?
regular session. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Calderon. Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Ms. Appleton.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Regarding action of in the executive session, there was no action taken, just discussion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Approving that? We have a motion and a second. We'll call vote. Mr. Calderon.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Appleton.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, regarding the consideration of the superintendent's contract.
I make a motion that we increase it by 1 year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to extend Mr. Strickland's contract to the maximum of 3 years by extending it 1 year. Calderon.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Appleton.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, we took care of the consideration of resolution authorizing the
Brad,
sale of
yes.
bonds. So there are no other items, then I would intend, well, let's go to
No.
announcements.
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the board, you have a number of announcements there. I'm gonna probably go out of order than what they're listed, but I'll go date wise. So we've got the Retiree and Service Awards banquet on May the 3rd, Tuesday. If you don't have your invitation, we'll get that to you. We will start at 5:15, I believe, or 5:30. 5:15, there at the Student Commons. May the 5th, we have Ctec Dedication,
What time is that?
11:30.
Oh, it's probably in the invitation.
Yep.
Okay.
May the 16th, we will have the Vidito banquet, and we are planning on holding it at Ctec. Tomorrow, we will have the Vidito tours and presentations, where the Vidito Foundation and family presents winners with those tomorrow morning. Regular board meeting on May the 17th, with graduation on May the 21st at 10 a.m. I believe the board's arrival time is probably set for 9. So we can make sure we've got pictures and.
And where is it?
Is that early enough?
No,
An hour
Hey.
for
Okay.
pictures? I
has to
don't
be
think
at
so.
least,
At 8?
we got there before 8.
Yeah.
And they still have, and y'all got there earlier than me.
Yeah, we need a couple hours for that.
We're at.
Yeah.
Watson Stadium. Sir.
What were they
We're
doing
gonna-
pictures, I guess?
In the,
Multipurpose facility?
Yeah, they'll
Yeah,
probably do them down the
that's where we did them
hallway.
last time.
We did multi-purpose last time. Yeah. Down the hall.
Yeah, an hour for pictures is,
Not enough.
unless they
No,
got 2 or 3 cameras running.
yeah.
I want to say I've got,
Especially if there's gonna be what, 600 plus, yeah.
let's say I've got another announcement.
I have appointments in Lubbock. For the 3rd. I might be late, but I'm on my way. Quick as I can get there.
Graduation, last day of school, regular board meeting, Vidito.
Yeah.
We have the band banquet that night, the 3rd.
I didn't realize I was hung up.
How about
Concert.
groundbreaking?
So groundbreaking, thank you for that reminder.
Oh.
We currently show it the week of May the 9th, Southern Heights. That's tentative in terms of that week. I think we can get something short up this week in terms of a definite date. Frank, not really dropped a bomb, but hearing from him that PSCLC meeting got moved back is good news. He must have heard that literally as he came down here because he had gotten word that it was moved to May the 2nd. So hearing that it's next week, that's good, because that helps us. But yeah, we'll get with Starla and we'll put together a groundbreaking time and schedule and get that out to you. That Southern Heights project.
This is what they handed us tonight about the My Power.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so that's an invitation to My Power Inc.'s Mentoring Circles graduation ceremony that they have. We host those circles on our secondary campuses and for 5th grade girls in our elementary campuses. So they'll have their little banquet April the 26th.
Invite us every year, but I always have a
I've never
conflict.
gone, yeah.
And I think that's announcements.
Okay. Any other comments? It is 8:42. We have a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Okay, bye.
Hi.
May will be a celebratory meeting. We've got a number of presentations.
Okay.
We'll have cheerleaders.
Cheers.